Imagine this, your dad dies after years of suffering, and then years later you get a letter. A letter saying we did it, but not who we are. A confession, sort of. This is what happened to the Stack family in Ireland. Let's dive in. First up, the main character here, Brian Stack. He's about 47, working as the chief prison officer at Portlaoise prison. Basically, his job is making sure some of the toughest prisoners in Ireland don't escape or smuggle in contraband. Not exactly the type of gig that wins you friends in certain circles. Then you've got his family, his wife Sheila and his three sons, Austin, Oliver, and Kieran. These guys aren't just the supporting cast, they're the ones who spend decades pushing, shouting, and begging for the truth. Imagine living your whole adult life trying to solve your dad's murder because nobody else seems willing to. Now, lurking in the background, you've got the ERA, the Provisional Irish Republican Army. Think of them like that one group in school that everyone's either scared of, defending, or pretending they don't know. For years, they're saying, "Nope, wasn't us." But spoiler alert, later they kinda admit it. Classic plot twist. And then there's Gerry Adams, the Sinn Féin leader who basically became the middleman between the Stack family and a shadowy ex-era commander. Imagine being so deep in this mess that the only way you get answers is by going through the political equivalent of your friend's older brother who swears he's totally not involved. Yeah, right. So that's your lineup. Brian, the prison officer who became a target, Sheila and the boys hunting for answers, the ERA dancing between denial and confession, and Gerry Adams somehow right in the middle of it all. Not exactly the cast of Friends, more like the cast of a true crime documentary nobody can finish because the ending is missing. So picture this, it's the 25th of March 1983. Brian Stack is at the National Stadium in Dublin watching a boxing match. Pretty normal night, right? A dad at the fights, probably thinking about work, maybe even about how late it's gonna be driving home. Now here's where it flips. He leaves the match, walks to his car on South Circular Road. Out of nowhere, a guy rolls up on a motorbike. The shooter's riding on the back, raises a gun, and puts a bullet straight into Brian's neck. From behind, no warning, just a quiet street, a parked car, and suddenly the man is bleeding out on the pavement. And here's the twist. He doesn't die that night. Nope, he survives. But it's not the kind of survival you brag about. He's paralyzed, brain damaged, trapped in a body that no longer works like it used to. 18 long months of suffering, hospitals, and his family watching helplessly. Imagine being his kids, teenagers watching their dad slowly fade away one day at a time. On the 29th of September 1984, Brian finally passes away. Doctors say it's directly connected to that shooting. So this wasn't just an attack, it was murder stretched out over a year and a half. A delayed execution, if you want to call it that. And here's the really sick part. In all that time, nobody ever got caught, nobody ever faced charges, and the case just started gathering dust. So here's where the story gets even weirder. For years after Brian's death, the ERA's official line was basically, "What shooting? Never heard of it." Total denial, like when your buddy swears he didn't eat the last slice of pizza even though the crust is still in his hand. The Stack family kept asking, the guards kept investigating, but it was all stone walls and closed doors. Nobody owned up, nobody was arrested. The case just sat there cold as an Irish winter. But then out of nowhere, fast forward 3 decades later, it's 2013. The ERA suddenly says, yeah, okay, fine, we did it. But wait for it, they add, oh, but leadership didn't actually approve this. Some local volunteers acted on their own. Like what? That's not exactly reassuring. That's like saying, yes, our dog bit your leg, but honestly, the dog didn't have permission to do it. And they even threw in the line that the volunteer responsible was disciplined. Disciplined how? Timeout in the corner? No more access to the getaway motorbike? Nobody really knows. And it's not like the Stack family got a follow-up email with a list of consequences. The weirdest part? The family actually met a former ERA commander through Gerry Adams of all people. Picture it. You're grieving, desperate for answers, and the only way you get them is by sitting in some secret meeting, listening to a guy basically say, "Yeah, it was us, but we didn't mean to." That's not closure, that's emotional whiplash. So you'd think after the era kinda sorta admitted responsibility, the case would finally move forward. But nope, it just gets weirder. Enter what I like to call the mystery note. Back in 1990, the guards actually got information from an era informant, and not just vague gossip, real details, names, who drove the motorbike, who fired the shot, even who gave the green light, like the whole group project sheet was basically handed in. But here's the twist. Nothing happened. The info just sat there in files collecting dust. Decades went by. Imagine having the cheat sheet for the final exam, but deciding, nah, I'll wing it. That's kinda what the authorities did. Fast forward to years later, and Austin Stack the son straight up says he knows the names of the people involved. That's right. He's walking around saying, yeah, I know who killed my dad. And still, no arrests, no charges, just endless investigations that never seem to finish. It's like the whole thing became one of those Netflix series where they drop the first 9 episodes and then forget to release the finale. The family has pieces of the puzzle, the state supposedly has the full picture, but somehow the picture frame is still empty. Okay, let's break down the wildest twists in this whole saga, because honestly, it reads like someone wrote a crime drama and forgot to edit it. Twist 1, the era finally admits, yeah, they did it, but then they tack on, this wasn't authorized by leadership. So what is that? An unsanctioned murder field trip? Like, sorry mom, I wasn't supposed to leave the house, but I accidentally assassinated a prison officer. Twist 2. Back in 1990, the guards had information from an informant that supposedly named names. Shooter, driver, green light, giver, the whole squad. And yet, decades later, nothing happened. No arrests, no trials. Imagine having the answers in your back pocket, but still acting like you're waiting on a quiz hint. Twist 3. Austin Stack, the son, says flat out that he knows the names, not suspects, not guesses. He says he knows. And yet, every time the family pushes for justice, they're told investigations are still ongoing. Ongoing for nearly 40 years? That's not an investigation, that's procrastination with paperwork. Each twist just makes it more insane. It's not just about who fired the gun anymore, it's about why the truth has been handled like some radioactive secret nobody wants to touch. And that's the part that really keeps this story alive. You ever notice how when regular people mess up, it's instant consequences? Like you forget to pay a parking fine and boom, you've got letters from the council before the week is over. But here, a prison officer gets shot, the era eventually admits it, and it's like, yeah, we disciplined the guy internally, don't worry about it. Seriously, imagine if murder worked like HR warnings. And the timing? Wild. The era sits on denial for decades. Then suddenly in 2013 they're like, okay fine, we'll admit it. That's 30 years later. Bro, that's not closure, that's like finally replying to a text your mate sent in 1983. At least they didn't ghost the Stack family on WhatsApp, I guess. Then there's that note, the big mystery note. Think about it. In 1990, someone literally gave the guards names. Names, the shooter, the driver, the planner. And the reaction was basically cool, we'll just file this under maybe. Like, imagine getting a full answer key for your exam and still failing. That's what this looks like. And don't even get me started on the Stack family. Austin straight up says he knows who killed his dad. That's not speculation, he says he knows. And yet the official line is the investigation is ongoing. Ongoing for 4 decades. At that point, you're not solving a case, you're running the world's longest procrastination challenge. So after all the denials, the half admissions, and the mystery note, what's left? The Stack family. These are people who've spent almost 4 decades chasing a truth that the system never really wanted to hand over. Austin, Oliver, Kieran, and Sheila Bryan's sons and widow, they've marched, they've spoken out, they've confronted politicians, they've met with people tied to the era, they've done everything short of solving the case themselves. Why? Because no one else would. They don't want money. They don't want some shiny headline. They want the names. They want to look the person who pulled the trigger in the eye and ask, why? What made you target a father of three? How do you live with that? And here's the kicker, they kind of know already. Austin has said it. He believes he knows who did it. But knowing and proving are two very different things. And in Ireland, when politics, violence, and secrecy all get mixed up, proving it can feel impossible. The Stack family aren't looking for revenge, they're looking for closure. But closure in this case has been dangled in front of them like a carrot on a stick, always close but never in reach. And that's the part that stings the most. Because you can bury a body, but you can't bury questions that won't stop haunting you. And here's where it gets almost unbelievable. The era admitted responsibility. The family says they know the names. The guards were given information decades ago that supposedly spelled it all out. And yet, no one has ever stood in court for killing Brian Stack. Not one person. It's like Ireland's justice system put the whole case in a locked box, lost the key, and then pretended the box never existed. Every time the family gets close, the trail just goes cold again. So what are we left with? A father murdered, a family still searching, and a country where truth shows up years late, half-dressed and acting like that's good enough. The haunting part? That mystery note was supposed to bring answers. Instead, it just raised more questions. And maybe the scariest truth of all is this. Silence sometimes protects more people than justice ever could. So yeah, that's the Brian Stack story, a prison officer shot outside a boxing match, an admission that came 30 years late, and a mystery note that somehow told everything and nothing at the same time. But here's where I throw it to you. Do you think this case was ignored on purpose? Were the guards protecting people? Or was it just politics choking justice? Drop your theories in the comments because honestly, this one feels like a crime story Ireland doesn't want to finish. If you're into these kinds of twisted, unsolved sagas where the ending makes you question everything, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell because I've got plenty more where this came from. Until next time, remember, the truth doesn't always come with a neat little bow. Sometimes it shows up late, missing pieces, and still expects you to be satisfied.